but I presume that we can start. Please let me know if you can see well my screen.
Yes, I can see your presentation.
Thank you. So we are half of the term, and we need to think about what it is in front of us. And I named this session Moment of Truth and Succession. Why? Because whatever it is in front of us is not only the contest, which are right knocking on the door very soon, but also we need to think about succession. And I want some feedback from you, or just annotate on the presentation, or just unmute when you want to say something. A moment of truth, the definition is said that it's an episode where a person come in contact with any aspect of a Toastmaster experience and form an impression of a club quality and service. In my opinion, moment of truth, it's there that we get feedback how well we succeed to keep our meetings, keep our members happy, and learn from our mistake. I want your feedback in what you think that it's moment of truth.
Milena, I think I agree with you. The moments of truth is indeed when you can measure the quality of your club by maybe asking your members if they are happy, if there's anything else as an officer that you can do for them. Yeah, it shows you the value of the club, I guess.
Thank you. Somebody else?
Hi, for me, moment of truth in the Toastmaster is getting inhabited feedback and more so receiving it positively.
Thank you. Getting feedback on the member experience, yes?
I think it's what Jaap said, going to a joint goal. How can we reach that?
Define a focus on specific goals. Focus, yes. You are defining the goals for your club in the start of the when the new board is formed. Then, together with the club, you define your strategy for the next year. You as a president, together with your officer. And yes, it's a way of measuring those goals. A mirror of the club, yes. Okay. Let's see if I succeed to erase a little bit, because I want you to tell me how you do the moment of truth. Arnold, I think that I need again your help.
So while you solve this, Milena, maybe I can share how our club did it.
Yes.
So when we started in July, during the summer, we created a list of questions and a list of statements that the members needed to answer and to rate. And we also inspired ourselves from what Toastmasters International gives us as a template for the moment of truth. And we shared this with the members, and then they had a certain timing to answer, like 2 weeks or 3 weeks to answer all these questions. And then during the officers meeting, we checked what are the, let's say, 3 main focus we need to have this year. And then we took some specific actions with respect to each focus.
Yeah, it's an idea. Do you know that there is in EasySpeak a survey that you can launch?
I didn't know that. We used Microsoft Forms, so, but I didn't know that EasySpeak was giving this possibility.
There is a EasySpeak feature embedded in EasySpeak. If you go to your club as an administrator, you can reach there. If you have problems, please let me know, and in a session one-to-one, I can show you where it is. It's in the control panel of the club.
Okay, thank you. That's good to know.
And it's for all of us, of course. The same is applicable. And then another question is, why do you think that we need?
To set goals for our members and the entire club.
Yes.
It's like a kind of evaluation of our club. When we evaluate speeches, we like to know what we did good in a speech and what we can improve. Here is some sort of way to understand what do the members like, and what do they see for their own vision, for example. How can we serve them better, as we see it again also on the screen, yeah.
To stay a healthy club with enough satisfied members, yes. And Fred, I have a question. I need to answer your question on the how, but I will answer after we finish with why. For improvement and feedback. Yes, indeed. If we don't have a feedback to see how far we are with the goals, how good we are, and maybe we as a board have a vision of our club, and members are having totally different vision, we are not serving not the club nor ourselves. So indeed, the moment of truth, it's the moment when you can give feedback, the moment that you can give an evaluation how good your officer is doing, how good your club is doing. In Toastmaster International, they are having 6 categories that you need to think about it. What is the first impression of a guest when he comes to our meeting? How you orientate new members, how good you are serving your member using fellowship, variety, and communication, how good your club program is organized, planned, how good are your meetings organized, how strong is your club from the membership point of view, and how you deal with recognition. I can share with you the presentation. It's the classical Toastmaster presentation, but I want more discussion. What each of us needs to think that it's important on each of this. We can do it like this. We can do it together and to have some open discussion, or we can do it in breakout rooms. How you prefer to do it?
Any is fine by me, so.
I think when you're using a breakout room, you get not all the people, all the attendees getting the correct information. Maybe it's by hand wise or by appointing by you then. Yeah, just like the talking stick method.
Okay, so let's stick in one room and try to discuss.
I think
Tell me.
Milena?
Yes.
When I look at it, of course, there's a moment of truth. I don't know how it's with existing clubs, because I think it's also good that you get the moment of truth also for the next club that they are gathered, so you can read it back. Otherwise, you will start every time with the same. Probably you have to reinvent the wheel. I don't know how that is organized with other clubs, because our club is rather new. Are those points which are made by the members through, are they gathered and they handed over also to the next board? Next to the fact that you are, as board also need to be evaluated yourself, and especially because how is it organized when you, for instance, in our we've got a lot of new members who never done before, and as you said, and indeed it's depending on how do members experience it. So that's
theoretically, Toastmaster International wants that moment of truth be a tool for the next board. So the present tool not only receive the feedback how good they are doing it, but it's also a tool to hand it over to the next board to learn from mistakes. I don't know how each club does it one by one, but if you use the survey from EasySpeak, if you use, as Nasima has shared with us, the paper or things like that, it's better to share it with the club also back, saying that, yes, I heard your voice, I heard your suggestion, and this is an action that we can improve. It can be from the old board to the new board, or it can be shared with the whole club. Depends how big and how small is the club. Because if I have a club with 30 members, it's obvious that it's better to have a discussion and a sharing between all of us. But if you have 50 members, it's difficult. So we are discussing about first impression. what you think that your club is doing well when a guest comes?
We welcome them and ask their opinion at the end of the meeting, if they enjoyed it and if they're willing to come back.
Even in online meetings?
Yes. Why not
You
welcome them? Still the same, right?
and you start the meeting a little bit earlier to welcome the guest, or you just welcome them after the meeting is started?
No, we just intervene it within the meeting. So when we start and or Toastmaster of the evening welcomes everyone, he does a special thank you to the guest. He names their names. He asks them if they could introduce themselves and whether they're willing to join in when we have the impromptu session, and that we just really welcome them to make sure that, hey, it's okay to use the floor, and even though you're new, just join us. And most of them do. And at the end, we just thank them for joining us and ask their feedback on how they enjoyed the evening or whether they think this is what they were looking for, and maybe we could assist them in any other way, because obviously not every meeting is the same. Every other time it's different, also depending on the speeches and the energy that's in the evening. But most of the time it's always, we just want to make sure that they're heard. We just want to make sure that they're seen and that we notice them. That way we can get them back.
Correct. And a good approach.
Thank
Somebody
you.
else.
Yeah, maybe this is Amal from Toastmasters Hague. So my view is the first impression start even much earlier than the meeting, when the guest approach us for the intent to join the meeting. So then we ask what do they know. So sometimes guests are from different clubs, so they know the format, but we also share a little bit of expectations what they do. And then, and by the way, I just started as VP membership very recently. So, but this is what I started doing with guests. And what I have noticed in the meetings, exactly what as Angie told, we welcome the guest once the meeting formally starts, and we then explain the structure and benefit of the structure. So this makes guests comfortable, and then we also ask guests if they would like to participate, let's say table topic, and explain them they can choose not to share or participate. Feel free to do that.
Thank you.
So I also wanted to share something. So at our club, we also do, like Angie and Amol just mentioned, and something extra I like to do, for example, when I'm general evaluator or when I'm giving a short closure to the meeting at the end as president. I also like to recognize when some guests, they volunteered, for example, for table topic, or they did a great table topic speech. And I also like to give them this special attention to encourage them, because as a previous guest myself, I know how hard it is to come in a club where I don't know anybody and maybe I'm scared to speak in public. And so to give them this extra attention to encourage them for next time and for their life in general.
Okay, but now we are talking just the guest as a non-Toastmaster guest.
Yes.
Is a difference when you have a guest which is a Toastmaster?
So we still welcome them before the meeting, and
that one I don't.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that.
Okay. We ask them also to give us some feedback to compare, for example, their meetings and ours, and they can share with us what we are doing great and what they can also give us as tips and tricks.
Amal or Angie, in your case?
Yeah, same. I agree. When it's somebody who's already a Toastmaster, he's just joining us to see how he or she would like to see how our club is doing it. Then we will ask them, is this what this is how would you do it in your club? And then we compare notes. So basically the same, but we do make them feel welcome, obviously, and we always tell them join us anytime, because I think it's really important to, no matter whether you are already Toastmaster or not, you'll learn from every other Toastmaster club, because I've joined several ones, and I'm so comfortable with what my club does that sometimes I join a club and I think, okay, and maybe it's because I have a thing for my club, because I think our club does it really, really well. I haven't really had a lot of other clubs. I thought, yeah, this is something I would like to implement into our club. So I think the reason that we should, shop around a little is also just to make sure that you're on the right track for your club. So yeah, first impressions are definitely very, very important, and we always try to make a very good impression.
Thank
Could
you,
I say a
Angie.
couple words?
Yes, Dominique.
Okay. There's basically three aspects in our club that we do for visitors to our club. First of all, our membership VP does a very good job of collecting information about first-time visitors or even guests that are coming from other clubs, and makes a note about that. And as the meter and greeter for most of these meetings, I usually take the time to break the ice before the meeting. I've got these notes. They seem to be impressed that we know a little bit about them before they come, whether it's a new member, a first-time visitor, a repeat visitor. And then the meeting starts, and then the Toastmaster themselves, who is not burdened with breaking the ice at the beginning of the meeting, but is concentrating on the task at hand for them. The Toastmaster speaks to these people and asks them to say a couple words, why they're here, etc. And then at the end of the meeting, of course, we ask every guest, and we try guest to give their comments on what, in basically 20 words or less, what they thought of the meeting. And we normally try to save the experienced Toastmasters at the end to ask that question to. And it's amazing how much advice experienced Toastmasters have given us. Perhaps Angie, if she was a visitor at our club, she would be telling us, since her club is such a fantastic organization and has done well, that she would be giving us something to learn from. That's it.
Sometimes it's an idea, if you have a experienced Toastmaster as a guest, ask him to be a general evaluator of the meeting.
I'll remark, if I'm allowed, Milena.
Yes.
The most important thing is that guests don't say it directly if they don't like it. So you cannot smell or see it if they don't like it. So that's a little bit what I experienced the last 5 years. So you must be very cautious what kind of approaches you have. You must have different approaches. And that's, for instance, the reason that we have meet and greet, like Dominique said, apart, and meet and greet who recondition themselves if they do a welcoming speech. Because that's how I look to it. If you welcome people, you don't talk to people. No, you do a speech. It's a little speech. And as a speaker, it's not about you, it's about the other. So that are little suggestions I learned, and we are very successful in our club in Amsterdam with a lot of members. But it's also a speech, and that is what I want to stress. And a lot of people don't realize that. That's all.
Yes, true.
And maybe I also have something to say about this. In The Hague, Shell The Hague, we look at, of course, who is new and who is not, because it's very easily spotted, especially when you're online. But what I notice is that some people just like to be a bird on the fence and have a look and see how it is. And some people want to be engaged, and that's difficult. What Rob also mentions. So everybody has their own expectations. What we do, we give people we always have a table topics because it's a lot of fun. People like it in our club. So we always give let's say the newcomers also, let's say the podium there, to do a 2-minute speech. Some use it to introduce themselves. Some are just participating, and others they don't want to do it. Nobody's forced. It's a very informal session environment anyway. But that way we can also better spot a little bit who's enthusiastic, who only wants to have a look and things like that. And afterwards, if people are interested, what my experiences is, then they reach out to me or to one of my my board members to mention that they liked it and they want to do more. So yeah, so what Rob said, it really depends on what kind of guest do you have and how we then approach them. We align our approach to that.
May I also add something, please?
Yes, Camelia?
I have the feeling sometimes that welcoming the guest at the beginning or at the end or during the meeting, it's a little bit overrated. I think what is more important than welcoming the guest is to keep in mind during the meeting that you have people who are not familiar with Toastmaster concept. And you cannot, we probably sometimes assume that they did their homework and they have a look, or they try to look at the agenda if they got a link to the agenda, or try to look on YouTube what is the Toastmaster concept about. But talking from personal experience, when I first landed in a Toastmaster meeting, after the meeting I was like, okay, that was first of all weird, and then okay, educational or interesting or something, because all these rituals or tradition from Toastmasters, from an outsider perspective, they can feel very maybe like a sect, so to say, like a group of, I don't know. So I think it's important that these things are kept in mind by the Toastmaster of the evening, of course, and the other members, that not everyone in that meeting is familiar with all these rituals of clapping and doing this and that, because then that's what makes the guests feel comfortable or connected to the meeting. Otherwise, they just keep looking and try to guess what will happen next. And at the end, they will say, okay, was interesting, but I was totally shocked by how the things went or the setup and so on. So yeah, that's very important. Actually, I would say even more important than welcoming at the beginning, during the meeting, or at the end of the meeting.
I have received during the years feedbacks that some guests said, I like the Toastmaster meeting because it's a very structured one. And on the other side, I have also received some feedback saying, you're too formal. I don't see the energy in the group. Why do you do always the clapping? Why do you do shake handing? So it's important, as Camelia underlined, to explain the guest what it happened there. To explain that, for instance, the shake hand is passing the torch from a speaker to another one. Communication. We are in Toastmaster. We need to communicate. And explaining over and over again, maybe sometimes we forgot that we have a new guest and he doesn't or she doesn't have any clue what is happening in that meeting. We need to remember. And also we need to remember, after the meeting is finished, to follow up with the guests. Not necessarily with the experienced Toastmasters, but with the guest for sure, we need to follow up. And in this, I think that a vice president of membership is a key player.
Can I add one more thing? Before
Yes.
After receiving that kind of feedback of you are too formal, you are not formal enough and not structured enough, or we got also over the time all kind of feedback, especially from people who are not familiar with the concept, as I said. So while I was the VP membership, I started sending to each guest who was confirming that he's coming to the meeting, I send a video with 4 minutes video. I always put the link. Please, if you're not familiar with the concept of Toastmaster, please have a look here before the meeting, so that people can already have an idea of what can happen or how it will happen. And that helped a lot, I think, in the past, because then I've noticed that we had less and less this kind of remarks from the guests.
Good idea. Thank you. We have a guest. Now it's our member. What we do, how we orient them. In our club, the Vice President of Education schedules some meeting with them in order to assign a mentor, to define with them some goals, and to explain the structure. How is in your club?
I can go. I do the same, the thing that you said. Once I get confirmation that there is paid and already added to the system from the VPM and the treasurer, I then go ahead and schedule a session with the member based on mutually convenient slot. Talk about them with a couple different topics. It's actually a checklist for me, but it's an ever evolving checklist based on every new member that comes in. So I discuss mentorship options, if they would like to have a mentor, first of all, and if they would, then what kind of mentor. Some people prefer the opposite gender. Some people prefer someone from a different culture so that they can learn more. Some people prefer mentors from a very similar background, as in if it's a student, then they want someone who is also in that area. If it's a professional with experience, they don't want someone who is retired and out of the professional life. So something that can help them in their current circumstance. So I try my best to find a mentor that suits their requirements. If not, they can always change. Then I help them choose the pathway. I see that there's a lot of confusion in how they want to choose a pathway. So I have some documents that I've made to help them pick it easier without confusion. And then there is topics around feedback based on what they experienced when they were guests and the meetings that they attended as a guest. If they have any feedback for the club in general, then I try to incorporate that and take it back to the executive committee meetings. Some other things we discuss, of course, you mentioned the goal. I try to understand why they've joined the club in the first place. Is it to improve their professional speaking? Is it just to get out of their shell and be able to talk in public no matter what the crowd? So all of this helps in helping me choose them, help them choose a pathway for themselves. Then if it's an icebreaker, I try to prioritize and get a date in already so that they can already get started on their path so that they don't have to keep waiting for long. So these are some of the things that I do in my first session with them.
Good point. Somebody else want to share? I think that Lisha. Yes, Nasima.
Yes, thank you. So indeed, we cover almost the same as what Lisha just mentioned. And also, I don't know if you mentioned it, Lisha, in our club, what we do also is to send a survey to ask which member want to have a mentor, of course, but which member wants to be a mentor as well. So to have some sort of pool and then to assign them. So I don't know, Lisha, if you do this in your club as well, or if you mentioned it. I just wanted
No, I asked the member in the first session if they want a mentor. Most people say yes. And there were like very rarely some people who said no, they're okay by themselves. And regarding if members want to be mentors or not, I just assume they all want to be mentors. I don't ask. But when I find a suitable person, I ask them, would you like to mentor this member or not? Would you be okay with that? And I think there has never been a case where they said no. It's always that they're ready to be mentors.
Yeah, well, the reason why we do this as well is to understand for which specific topics someone wants to be mentored or someone wants to mentor. What are the skills that I can offer, for example, or what are the skills that I want to learn? These are the things that we try to define as well.
Yes. Good. So we oriented the members. Now we are all in a club. Fellow Toastmaster. How we keep the flame open, how we keep the member engaged. It's a VPM task or it's everybody task? Who wants to have an idea, to share some thoughts?
Milena, just a gentle reminder, we have 20 minutes for this session.
Yeah.
My personal thought is that everybody should be involved, at least all the officers. That's what our club does anyway. Just to specify, because we all want the same thing. We all want a healthy, fun club. In order to achieve that, we as officers need to get our game together and say, what are we heading for? What's the quality that we want? What is it that we want to reach in our club? And we all just put our heads together and we have a look at who does what the best. And then we all reach out, and we have a WhatsApp group for all the members. We have a WhatsApp group for just the officers. And that way we can always interact quite quickly. So I think it's a team effort that you should have in order to comply with what you want for your club.
I think myself, Maya, when I look at it, as indeed, as board, we are only executives, so we are not more than the rest of the members. And the fellowship and how guests are received in the club depends on all the members. So everywhere, of course, as a VPM, or you have got a role as receiving the guests, of course. But I think the community of the has to be hospitality of all the members to each other. So I think it's not only a matter of being the board, but as the club as total.
True. Are you, your members are just attending the meetings and come to your club, or they go beyond? They participate to conferences?
For my club, not. We stimulate them to go also to other clubs and also to trainings, just like speaker to trainer or club officers training. But unfortunately, there is not much interest in doing that, mostly because of lack of time or there's no interest for that. Although we promote it every time, so it's, we're not over promote. That's not what we. The most we had, of course, they come for only speaking, and that's even limited.
Do you think that if this officer training or a workshop, whatever, will be organized during the week, you will get more attendance? They will be more keen to follow that workshop?
I think that should be discussable, or be a poll be sent out, of course. And I think sometimes members have also the limited time. Maybe it's an idea, but I don't know how it's intentionally done, to give also some short trainings in weekdays, so the 2-hour training. Because when you got a whole day of training, of course, and people and the members are very already Zoom fatigue, especially now. It's very hard to get people, members, to motivated to do something else, of course.
How many of our clubs have a newsletter? I know that our club, being also a company club, have done in 6 years, I think that's 2 newsletters. How about yours? Camelia?
We have not necessarily a newsletter, but we try to communicate in more formal way, so to say, or structured way, every quarter, half a term or something. so people like members know what are the major things going on or the upcoming dates for the club. But I think that newsletters can be, I personally think that there are plenty of newsletters from Toastmasters and can be quite overwhelming at some point. So newsletters are good, but there need to be a very clear purpose for it, and the frequency should be also well thought.
You have a dedicated website for the club?
No, just a simple mail, basically, where try to put some graphic elements to make it more interactive than just plain text.
It will be an idea to start sharing information, I don't know, in Facebook. Also, it's interesting. The communication with members is usually done by mail. Any other ideas how we can do it?
Yeah, so Facebook, I would say 50-50 because there are a lot of apparently data privacy issues on the Facebook. So Facebook could be used for marketing. Uh, I think somebody mentioned for the guests, they have 3-minute video, 4-minute video. So if we create, let's say, YouTube channel and some of the speeches, if we can put it there, that may help because everybody uses YouTube a lot, and then we can use for branding also.
The next aspect that we need to discuss, and we need the feedback, how we are doing with planning and organizing the meetings. I imagine that everybody which is in this meeting use EasySpeak for taking the roles and keeping track of advanced membership and the advance, how you advance the pathways. Do you have another way of doing it? Now, of course, all the projects are from the pathways because we are following the pathways.
I don't.
But how?
No, sorry, I don't.
Yes,
understand.
Angie.
I don't really get your question. Are you saying how else do we do it? How else do we take our roles apart from using pathways or EasySpeak? Sorry.
So you use pathways and EasySpeak.
Right.
Pathways from Toastmaster International and EasySpeak. Are you, the club is always aligned? Because
yes, well, obviously we try because the Toastmaster of the evening needs to know how to fill his evening in a proper manner because there is a starting time and an end time. So he checks on time whether all the roles are taken by all of the members, and then we tend to send out messages on WhatsApp to our team members saying, hey, there's still a few roles to cover, you know, and then based on that they usually log in and then they take a role. That's how we try to fill the evening way before we start. But sometimes, yes, something happens, you know, and we start a meeting and we say we don't have an aha counter. We then ask even one of the guests if they're willing to take it because they want to they want to be active and not just sit there and listen, but they want to really participate. So we give them a chance, or we just divide the roles. So sometimes if we don't have enough people, but we do want to complete the meeting, sometimes one of us will take 2 roles, but it's fine. We're all very flexible. I think that's really something that's important to know as well, that you tell your members it's really important to be flexible because whatever role it is, it's always a teaching moment, isn't it?
yes. how you keep the track if after the meeting members go to Basecamp and finalize the projects. This is a question for President and VP.
Milena, gentle
They need
reminder. Sorry.
sorry.
Gentle reminder. Okay, you know about the time. Cool.
Normally, when somebody finishes a part, and it's always that the VPE, she handles it at the end, the progress of the speakers. You get a notification by email when the part is completed. And in general, this is handled by the VPE. Unless it's a VPE, then the president handles the VPE, the finalization. It's the same as the dividing of the speeches, because the registration, of course, takes place through Easy Speak. That's so, and the VPE has all the options to divide the roles. That's not in the hand of the president.
I have an experience with one of my members of the club that he have finished level 1 but never go to Basecamp to register his speeches.
Okay, yeah, that's if he normally the fact is when you go to Basecamp, you need to follow up your speeches and also finalize it there. If you don't do that, it's you don't follow the rules according to pathways. I think it's a very that's why we last time we did an instruction evening for members, and we also made a video about it, how to use pathways, how to use Easy Speak. And I think that's a very important thing to give new members. You put also this recording available for every new member. And I think it's very important that new members are also guided how to proceed. When you follow the instructions on Easy Speak or pathways for beginning, it's a lot of information to cover. And I think that's would make a good way to put it in portions in the right sequel, so that members know what to do in the beginning. And I find that as a president, I find that lacking there. I'm already trying to give some in Mailchimp to put something together that the new members get a mailing every for when they start week, what to do, how to work with Basecamp, how to work with Easy Speak. And that's just very important that they know how it works, because a lot of, and especially because in the beginning I was also struggling myself to how do I register speeches, how do I, for instance, get there, and also how can you register yourself? You cannot register yourself, for instance, a role as an evaluator or as an account of a timer. So there's also for us a lot to learn on this whole project.
Yes, and also keep in mind that also in Basecamp you need to go to register all your roles, because sometimes on different levels you cannot go further if you don't say to the system that I have fulfilled this role.
Yes, and
Yannick has his hand raised. Yannick?
Oh, yeah, no, I was just gonna mention that for on the YouTube page of Toastmasters, you can find a lot of tutorials on finishing the speeches and marking them complete. So you can send that as well to your members. And what we also sometimes do is we just make an appointment on like with a few members who never comply with marking them, and we just do like a session with a screen sharing and just go through it step by step so that they finish it all and the points get registered and everything. We usually do that like at the end of the year, or if we realize that someone is really falling behind with like 4 speeches not registered, and to pick it up again.
Another question, how you recognize the achievement of the member? Fred?
Achievements.
Yeah.
So that's why by rewarding, of course, they get when Toastmaster receives finishes a level, we try to recognize it at the club to promote, to show the rewards that we celebrated in a way that we say, listen, this level has been achieved by. So celebration is very important, of course, in the club. And also we have got club contests. People need to see that they grow. And if you don't do that, then people are not encouraged to go on. So this celebration is a very important part within Toastmasters and also in the club.
When we have online meetings, real meetings, we always have some gift when a member finish a level. And the gift was not, it was more, how you say it, small value, but something that we can make the new members, yeah, I have, when as long as I reach a milestone, I get a reward. Just to boost up the morale and make them going. Some other clubs?
Maybe
Ridwan?
I can share for Timot. I think what we did is, given that we didn't have to pay rent, we had a lot of quite some good funds for us, and so what we did is we don't really did an achievement, but at least we recognize everybody that didn't drop their membership with the COVID, and December we gave everybody a Pate card. Just to watch a movie at home, but that's what we did. Like, it wasn't for an achievement for doing completing a level, but at least it was for sticking with the team of even during the COVID times. And it was their own money, like their subscription, which we should have used to pay the rent, but we are just giving it back to them instead of keeping it in our bank account.
That's thoughtful, yes.
What did you offer? I did not.
So Pate has this home.
Oh, Pate. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
So in order to prepare the handover, we need to gather all these moments of truth. My advice, try to keep one in the near future. Try to keep one in after the contests have been finished, somewhere in April, maybe May. We need to have the feedback. We need to hand over. And keep in mind that a membership, you are part of the club, and you go beyond the year that you have been a president or a VP or an officer member. Pass the torch on with the knowledge. Help the new officer to learn from your mistake. Help the new officer to learn from history. History is there to learn. Thank you so much for participating on this.
Thank you so much, Milena. Thank you so much. That was a great session. Thank you. Thank you very much, Milena. Okay, we are at the end of the training session for the club officers. I will post the link to mark your attendance on a Google form. Please use the link to mark your attendance. I'm posting it on the chat at this moment.
Milena, we still see your screen. Just
Yeah, try to find where it's hidden.
if you scroll to the top, I think.
Yeah.
I stopped it. It's okay. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Yes, please use the link to mark your attendance. This is very important. I will close the attendance in about 10 minutes.